Hello everybody, this is a video that will be welcoming you to the class, and we'll go over the course in terms of going over the syllabus. And the first thing I want to say is I apologize for the audio quality of this video. I recently moved and I am talking to you from an empty apartment, so if you've ever been in an empty apartment, you know that it's very echoey. So the audio might be a little bit off here. So sorry about that. I will say that the video lectures that you will be watching online have been previously recorded in a better audio condition. So don't worry if you're thinking, oh my God, I can't sit through this type of audio. It's only for this video. And so, another note about the videos that you'll be watching, since they were pre-recorded, if there's any reference to due dates or schedules, ignore those things. Those were for another class. Probably they are more likely to be for the COVID switch over in the spring. So if there's anything there, just ignore that. So I guess I will just address the big issue right away, which is probably, in my experience, probably 50 to 80% of you are worried about this class. You're probably thinking that you aren't good in math, you haven't had math in a long time, you're not going to pass the course, you're worried about failing the course. What I'll say is don't worry. There's various things I can say about this, but I think I'm going to make this short for today. But basically, I believe that the teaching of math courses historically and traditionally has been pretty horrible. And I think that a lot of math textbooks and maybe even teachers, not all, but some, intentionally make things difficult. Why? Well, it makes them feel better, perhaps. So sometimes I feel like some of the teaching of math is done to sort of make the students feel stupid, so the teachers can feel better. I'm not like that. And again, I wouldn't say this to other people, but in general, you know, that might be the case. Also, maybe part of that is due to what some teachers think math is, and they think it's something about some sort of secret system of codes that you need to know, and if you can't do it exactly like them, somehow you're not right. For me, math and statistics is about thinking, about doing the appropriate things with the numbers that you have. So these statistics is applied. So if you do research and you collect data from your research, you should be able to analyze those data appropriately and then make conclusions appropriately from your analyses. And so it's about thinking. And so I hope that you'll understand that it's about thinking. And so my exams are going to be about thinking. It's not going to be, do you have the right answer? I could actually care less if you have the right answer. You could have the right answer and get a 0 because you don't show your thinking. I don't care about, you know, the answer itself. I care about your thinking. And definitely you'll get some points if you have the right thinking but you have the wrong answer. You pushed the buttons wrong on your calculator, or you made one small mistake early in the problem and it just blew up as it went on. Probably your experience and some of my experience is that in math classes, if that happened, you made a small mistake, you would lose all the points because the final answer is not right. Not for me. So if you show your thinking, show you're doing the process right, if you make a mistake, you'll get some points off, of course, but it won't be the whole thing. In fact, a lot of the mistakes that I find in this class, you'll get only partial points off, not even a majority of points off. So I hope that will relax you a little bit. I've gotten good feedback from my students, including online students, in terms of my lectures, that it helps people understand those things. We'll talk also a little bit about this later, is that there will be some optional Zoom sessions for this class, and so if you are one of those people who is extremely nervous, I highly recommend those Zoom sessions. So I had a student last semester who was pretty much crying during the first Zoom session, so worried that they could not understand the stuff, and that person got an A in the class. The Zoom sessions can be very helpful if you are worried about math. So let's go ahead and dive more into this, but what I'll say again is I hope to help you become less anxious and more confident about your math skills. And I hope that you'll understand that it's not about stupid numbers and whether it's exactly right, but it's about thinking about things, about what numbers mean and how you can use numbers to answer questions. That's the important thing. And so I hope that you will remember that as we go through the class. It's about thinking. It's not about numbers. It's about thinking. So my name is Kevin. So you can call me Kevin if you want. If you're uncomfortable calling me Kevin, you can call me Professor or Dr. Carlson. Do not call me Mr. Carlson. I don't care about titles, of course. You can call me Kevin. I don't care about titles. But if you're going to call me a title, don't call me Mr., because that's the wrong title. Call me Dr. or Professor Carlson. And some students have really liked the hybrid approach that I've suggested to them, which I learned in Asia. You can call me Dr. Kevin or Professor Kevin if you want. So if you don't want to call me Kevin, you feel uncomfortable, but you also don't want to go into that formal Dr. Carlson, call me Dr. Kevin or Professor Kevin. That would be fine. That's my email address there. That's how you should contact me. So this course is going to be fully online. I've already explained that in the email I sent you last week. But just to reiterate, this is a fully online course. What does that mean? That means that you do not have to be online at a certain time. So there are no lectures at a certain time. There's no things that you need to do at a certain specific time. I think that is the best thing to do when we're doing this type of learning. And so, given that, Canvas is very important. So Canvas is going to have all the video lectures for the course. It's going to have all your assignments and labs. It's going to have all your exams. So everything that you're going to do for the course is done via Canvas. So if you don't know how to use Canvas now, try to get better with it because it's extremely important. And I also mentioned previously that in addition to all the stuff that's on Canvas, so recordings of video lectures and the assignments, exams, etc., there will be optional live Zoom sessions, which are basically question and answer sessions. So if you have questions about the course, it could be about the material, or it could just be about what's the exam like, or what's this course like. It could be general like that. You can ask those questions in those Zoom sessions, and I will answer them. And what I'll do is I will announce these live sessions on Canvas. I cannot promise you that there'll be a Zoom session every week. We'll see. But I can promise you there'll be at least one Zoom session for every unit in the class. So for every chunk of things that you're tested on, there will be a Zoom session at least before every exam. Here's the required textbook. What I'll say about this is that you can use any edition of this text. You do not need to use this edition. So any edition is fine. Stats hasn't changed. The only thing I'll say is that if you get an older edition, make sure that the topic on the syllabus matches the chapter. So there might have been some reordering of the chapters through various editions, so just make sure that you're reading the topic and not necessarily the chapter number. So I think you can probably find some pretty good deals online for older editions of this book, is my guess. So we're doing things online, and so checking your email is very important. If I need to contact you, I will contact you either through your Panther email, your Chafee email, or through Canvas email. So you should be checking both. I'm not going to go over all the details of the syllabus, so you should read this, and if you have questions about things like questions about email, click on this link and it will answer those questions. I won't go through the whole thing here. So this is the formal course description from Chafee College, but I'll just basically say that we're going to go through the basics of statistics. So this course is a very basic first step course, but it is a course actually that covers probably 80% of stats that is used in social sciences. But you might take more detailed classes if you were really getting into it as a researcher. So this overview is the basics of statistics. It's basically how do we take numbers, data, analyze them in appropriate ways to come up with valid conclusions based on the data. So you can always read these things. But for me, a big outcome that I want you to have is I want you to become more comfortable and more confident and less anxious about math and numbers and statistics. And I will talk about this more in the first lecture, but basically if you are comfortable with doing statistics, with numbers, with math, it will open up a lot of doors in terms of employment. So you don't necessarily need to be like saying, oh, I want to be a statistician. You don't need to be that necessarily. But if you have in your pocket the ability to do statistics, that makes you much more marketable for various jobs. It could be in the business world, it could be in teaching, for example. It could be in all sorts of manner. Knowing statistics and be able to do them is a great skill to have and will give you a big leg up against the competition in terms of getting jobs. Okay, in terms of assessment and grading, just know that everything's done on Canvas. There are late penalties. And the big thing to sort of remember is that there's a lot of small assignments. So there's a lot of homeworks, there's a lot of labs. Just keep up with it. If you keep up with them, things will go smoothly. If you delay them and you're late on them, things tend to cascade. And one thing I'll say is that it could be people who want a higher grade. So it could be somebody who gets a B, for example, wants an A, or has a C, wants a B. Or it could be people who fail the course, who are on that border of failing the course. And failing in this case is a D. If you get a D, you're not considered passing this course for the requirements that this course fulfills. And so, my experience, people who are on the wrong end of that, who are wrong end of the border, whether it's wanting to get a higher grade or passing or not passing, more often than not, when somebody emails me and says, can you please boost up my grade? And by the way, I won't do that. It's not fair to everybody in the class, but if you email me and say, can you please boost me up? I'm almost there. Usually what happens is I go look, and 99% of the times, somebody who asks me that has multiple assignments that were not turned in or were late. And so the moral is keep up. For one, it will help you feel better. If you're always late in this class and doing things late, you're going to be more anxious. And if you're anxious, you're not going to do well in the class because you're going to be all nervous about math. Do things early, feel confident. And so, you know, don't do it for those reasons. For one, it will make you more confident about math and do better in the course if you do things early. And two, if you do things late and lose points, I've always seen it happen that people will end up with lower grades than they really deserve because they just didn't do those things, the homeworks and labs on time. So just do them on time. So this course, I don't think there's more work in this course. It's just that there's a steady flow of work. So there's a steady flow of lectures you got to keep up on, a steady flow of homework assignments, a steady flow of labs. So it's about just keeping on track. It's not more work, it's just that you got to chip away at it consistently. And then also make sure that you know the deadlines for everything, assignments, labs, exams on Canvas. Canvas will tell you when those things are due. Know those things. Know the specific day something's due. Don't assume that because the first 2 exams were due on a Saturday that the third exam is going to be on a Saturday. No, that's not going to be the case necessarily. So make sure you check the day that it's due. Also check the time. So one thing I found that people get in trouble with is that they assume that the time that something's due is 11:59. Well, why is that? It's because probably a lot of professors are showing that there's 11:59 time, and I might do that also. Why is that? Because it's a default on Canvas. You don't have to do anything. You just click and it says 11:59. You don't have to do anything. But don't assume that time. So if an exam is due at 8 p.m., and you don't hand it in, you don't do it on Canvas, and you email me, you said, I thought it would be 11:59, you're out of luck. It's not fair to take your late exam because there are going to be some people who crammed it in and got it done on time because they knew it was 8 o'clock, but maybe they could have did better if they had a few extra hours. So on that note, on exams, I'm always kind of shocked by how many times people turn it in at the last minute. And I always scratch my head and say, why would you do that yourself? Why would you put yourself under so much time pressure to get it done right before it's due? When you can, try to do it ahead of time. Don't do things at the last minute. If you do things at the last minute, you'll panic, you won't think as clearly as you could, and your grades will be lower. So some of the things we'll do are homework assignments. So homework assignments, I will have typically the document, a Word document with the homework assignment. And most homework assignments, you'll have to write stuff like formulas and numbers. Feel free to write those out and take a photograph and upload the photograph onto Canvas. That's how most people will submit their homeworks. I had a couple students who've typed out their homework. You don't need to do that. I think typing could take a lot longer than just writing it. So you can just write it on a sheet of paper and take a picture of it and upload it as your submission to Canvas. And basically, you'll see, you can read the stuff here on the syllabus. But for all the homework assignments, I will give you all points, all possible points, just 5, if you make a legitimate try at it. So if I look at it and you gave it a good try, you'll get 5 points. Why is that? Well, I don't want to give you any incentive to cheat. If you cheat and copy somebody's answers and, oh, it looks perfect, and you get 5 points, who cares? You don't understand it. You're not going to do good in the course. So I don't care whether you're right or wrong. I want you to try it. I want you to give it a good try. Give it a good try, you're going to get 5 points. And then what I'm going to have is I'm going to have either a Word document or a video that's going to show you the answers for all the homeworks. So it is your responsibility to watch those videos or look at the Word document to correct your homework and understand things you got wrong and why they're wrong. So that's your responsibility in terms of those things. If you don't understand your mistakes, you can always talk to me. Zoom sessions are a good time to clarify these things. Also, we're going to have labs, and so SPSS is a program that's used extensively to do statistical analyses. What I'll say is that you do not need SPSS. So you don't need to download it, you don't need to use it directly. So for SPSS labs, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a video that will go over how to do the lab, the analyses in the lab, and I'm going to show you what SPSS looks like and what the analysis steps look like, and I'm going to ask you in the lab to repeat those steps. So how do you do those analyses? I'm going to ask you to describe those steps. And then the big part of the labs is analyzing, interpreting the output. So in that video, I'm going to show you output, SPSS output, and how to find the numbers that you need to make the appropriate interpretation from the output. So there'll be a video that will show you how to do the lab, how to run SPSS, and how to interpret the output. And then the lab that you'll be doing is that you'll tell me, describe how you do the steps for the analyses, and you're going to be making interpretations of the findings of the data from the output. Just like the homework, you'll get full points, full 5 points if you make a good, legitimate try at the lab. I'm not going to be grading you for accuracy of your assignments. There will be a video where I'll go over the answers for the lab, and you need to make sure that you watch those videos and you understand any mistakes that you have. Again, if you don't understand your mistakes, please ask me and we can talk about it. In terms of exams, there'll be 4 non-cumulative exams. Non-cumulative means that it's only for that unit. So if the first exam we have chapters 1, 2, 3, we have the exam, and then the second unit we have chapters 4, 5, 6. The second exam is only going to cover chapters 4, 5, and 6. It won't cover the earlier materials. I'm going to continue something I've been doing in this course for a while, which is having makeup exams. So if you take the first try exam and you don't get the grade that you want, you can try again with the makeup exam. And then I'll take the highest grade of the 2. So anybody can take the makeup exam. So let's say that you got 80, and let's say you got 99. I don't think anybody's done this, but let's just say you got 99 on the first try and you say, I want 100. You can take the makeup if you want. And the highest score will hold. So let's say you got 95 on the first try, and you took it again for some reason, and you got 80. Your grade for the first exam, for that exam, would be 95. It would be the highest score of the 2. So you're not going to lose anything for trying the makeup exam. What I'll say about this is I found something really strange when we did this fully online. So in the spring, when we moved online, everybody tried it the first time, and they took, and if they wanted to, they took up the makeup. During the summer, I found that there was a number of people who, especially as the semester went on, a number of people who apparently didn't do their work, things were late, and they just didn't take the initial exam, thinking, oh, there's always the makeup. Don't do that. That is a very, very bad sign. If you find yourself thinking, I can't do the first exam, I'm just going to take the makeup exam because I don't have time, it should be a red flag that you aren't doing the work that needs to be done. So I strongly suggest always taking the first try exam, and if you're just trying to take the makeup, something's going wrong with your studying, and I would address that issue. I think it's also kind of not very smart to, if you're uncertain about yourself in terms of math, having only one try. The makeup is for you try it good at the first try, and if you need some help and revision, the makeup's there. It's not, I'm going to skip it and just take it once. Taking it once to me doesn't seem like a very good idea. There's also going to be a cumulative final exam. This cumulative exam is probably different from other cumulative exams that you've taken in other courses, where they might ask you all the same questions over again about the same stuff. This cumulative exam is unique in the sense that it will ask you things that you haven't necessarily been doing on the exams to that point. So I'm not going to talk a lot about this right now because it wouldn't make sense because you don't know what the stuff that we're going to cover in class is. But basically, the final exam is going to be using integrated skills, things that you've learned throughout the semester and doing it in a new way on the final exam. And the final exam, if you know what you're doing, it should take you like 20 minutes, to be quite frank. If you really know what you're doing, it could be really fast. So here's the sum of the points. You probably know by now that Canvas will show you your points, will show you your total points, will show your percentages. In terms of your grade, often at the end of the semester, people are starting to think, well, what if I get this on the final exam? What will my grade be? Please don't ask me. For one, this is a stats class. You should be able to calculate that yourself. Two, Canvas will do it for you. So there's a video right there that will show you how you can do that what if with Canvas in terms of your grade. Here's the percents for the grades. I'm going to follow that strictly. Why? It's not because I like rules. I really don't like rules. But I need to be fair to everybody. So if somebody got an 89.5 and said, oh my gosh, I'm almost an A, can you please give me an A? I'll say no. Why? Because if I push you up, then there was somebody who was at 89.00, who now might say, well, that person got an A, now I'm 0.5 away from it, you should give it to me. So if that happens, then people who got 50% in the course will get A minuses. So I just can't do that. It's just not fair. And again, it's usually the case when somebody says they want me to push them up, I usually look and they usually have a homework or a lab that hasn't been turned in or they turned it in late. So you kind of did it to yourself in that case. So I will follow this strictly. Accommodations, so if you have a disability that affects your learning or performance on exams, you will have accommodations. And so for the online exams, there'll be two versions. There'll be a general version and there'll be a DPS version. So if you have accommodations, there'll be a DPS version. I will send you an access code well before the exam. So if it's like the day before the exam and you haven't gotten the code and you have accommodations, let me know. If you think that you have a disability that affects your learning, contact the DPS office and get some documentation so that you can get accommodations. And I think that's all I'm going to say about that. Academic integrity. So basically that means don't cheat. I find that online courses gives a lot more temptation for people to cheat. Don't do it. If you're caught, it's going to ruin you in terms of this course. If I catch you cheating, you get a 0 for the full exam and there's no makeup. So if you cheat on the first try, you'll get a 0 and you can't take the makeup. If you cheat on the makeup, you're going to get a 0 on the makeup and whatever your score you got on the first exam, that goes away and it's a 0 also. So don't do it. The points aren't worth it. Even if it's like 50 points, which it probably isn't. It might be like 5 points, or even if it's 20 points, just take the loss. If you get caught cheating, then you're going to lose 100 points, then you're in really big trouble. So don't do that. Some hints in general, besides just don't cheat. If you take notes from the textbook or other sources, put it in your own words. So I've had some students in the past get 0s on exams, And they essentially say, I memorized the book. I wrote detailed notes from the book, and that's why I said that on the exam. To me, it looks like they copied it, right? It sounds exactly like the textbook. I don't know if you memorized it or you cheated. I'm going to assume you cheated because I can't tell you memorized it. So if you are one of those types of people, put it in your own words. Don't put it word for word from the textbook, because it's going to be the textbook's answer. If you give me the textbook's answer, you're going to get a 0. Start working early. So my impression is that people cheat online when they feel pressure, when they feel like they're not going to do well, and they're desperate, and then they reach out and cheat. Well, the cure for that in this course is work early. There are those homework assignments, lab assignments, there's things to do. Start work early. Don't try to do everything on the last day before it's due. That's not going to be very helpful. It's also going to lead you to be more anxious about things, more anxious, you're going to be more likely to cheat, more likely you're to cheat, more likely you're going to get 0 on the exam, more likely you're going to fail the course. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. In terms of the participation in this course, in terms of Canvas, I would say that you should spend at least 10 hours a week directly engaged with the course on Canvas. There is a lot of material. There's a lot of things you should be doing, so you should be budgeting 10 hours a week. Whether that's 2 hours over 5 days or 5 hours over 2 days, it's up to you. Just make sure you put in enough time. In the summer, I'll be frank, I had a record number of fails. I usually only have like 2 fails in the class. The fail numbers were much higher in the summer. My interpretation was that, and actually it wasn't even my interpretation, I had data. I can look in Canvas, I can see how many hours you spend in the class. And so what I did is I looked at the people who were failing or did fail. And a clear picture came out. A clear picture was that they were not spending enough time in the course. I could see the data very clearly. So if you want to pass the class, make sure that you put in the time. I've said some of these things before. You can definitely read them. Open door, open mind. Basically, give me feedback how the course is going, and I'll help you. And so just before we get into the class schedule, just one thing is that make sure that if you need extra work, so sometimes people ask me, can you give us extra problems? Well, they're here actually. The extra problems are in your book. So if you need extra problems, use the book. Also, we can talk about in class how you can make up your own problems. You can make up your own data and get practice doing statistics with your own data. So I'm not going to read all of this stuff because it won't make much sense to you. But one thing I will highlight is, for one, read the syllabus carefully, and 2, do the basic math review. So you do need to know basic mathematical skills to do decent in this class. So for example, order of operations. So do you know order of operations? Because you need to know that, because the formulas will have those things in it, different operations. You'll need to know what things to do first to do the right solution. So there is a basic math review. If you are uncertain about your math, do look at Appendix A. I think there's also a test there, so you can also self-test yourself to see if you are doing the things that you're supposed to be able to do to succeed in this course. And I sort of mentioned that because over the last year or so, there's maybe 3 to 5 people who didn't do well in the course, and I think it was because they didn't have the basic math skills. So if you don't have the basic math skills, you might have to actually take another course, a course that will teach you those basic math skills before you can take a course like this. So I'm not going to go over this. You can see that there's exams, makeup exams, and then our final exam is going to be due by December 18th, and that's basically it. for the course. So hopefully that gives you a nice overview of the course. And then if you've been at SPACE for a while, you know that we always have the student resources at the end of our syllabi. So do read these. Some of the information may be outdated because it was a pre-COVID situation. So you might always want to check with those offices, those resources, to see what their current status is. But generally, I've had experiences where students aren't aware that there are resources for them to help them get through college. And some of those resources may actually be money, for example. So do look at these things, because there's a lot of stuff out there that can help you that you're probably unaware of. So do read that stuff. So I think that's it for this overview. And I hope that you feel a little bit better about the course, that you're not so worried. And you can always reach out to me if you have questions. So take care, and you will hear my voice probably more clearly in another video.